Hello everyone, I'm here with Val Hale and we're going to be talking about the history of Omokoroa Community Church. And there's a wonderful, what do we call this, display here that's been made on the church, and we're going to go through this step by step and learn a bit about our history.
History of the Omokoroa Church. Ever since European settlers lived in Omokoroa, there has been Christianity ministry. The earliest settler was Reverend Gellibrand. There is a statue of him in the Gerald Crapp Historical Reserve, and his name is perpetuated in one of the street names in the village. The town churches took an interest. Ministers came out by boat and later rowed. They came out in turns, but their regularity was determined by tides, winds, rain, and the state of the roads. Mr. F.N. Christian, a Methodist lay preacher, recorded in his diary, Sunday the 7th of July, 1912, the journey took nearly 2 hours, for the roads were terrible and compelled me frequently to stop and clean out the mudguards, which were clogged with clay mud. The main barrier was the Wairoa River. It was some years before it was bridged, and the old Tauranga Highway was formed. For many years, the highway wasn't even gravelled, and travelling was dictated by the weather. Because of these conditions, Christian outreach to Omokoroa region was haphazard and few records were kept. The small Settlers' Hall was built in 1928, a fairly rough, unlined corrugated iron building for the purpose of accommodating the school. It was here that periodic services of worship and a Sunday school were located. About half a dozen people attended these services, which were taken by vicars from Holy Trinity Church. A Baptist minister came out each week to hold midweek services in a home in the village. My mother, Grace Crapp, remembered her wedding day in 1937 being conducted by a Methodist minister in the Settlers' Hall. On the 17th of November, 1972, a small congregation of loosely linked Anglicans, Methodists and Presbyterians convened a representative church committee who proposed that the church in Omokoroa be declared a combined congregation, embracing all denominations under the authority of the negotiating partners. Ministry would be provided by clergy from the Holy Trinity, St. Stephen's and St. Columbia parishes in Tauranga. One of the reasons the churches decided to combine in November 1972 was because of the flourishing Sunday school, which included children from all denominations. The larger Settlers' Hall was built in 1974/1975, attached to the small hall to cater for the community needs of the exploding population of the township, triggered by the subdivision of some of the dairy farms into horticultural blocks. For many years, the services of worship had been conducted in the Omokoroa Settlers' Hall. These services were taken by ministers of the Tauranga Parish, Anglican, St. Stephen's, Methodist and St. Columbia Presbyterian churches, with occasional services being taken by the Baptist and Salvation Army. Gradually people began to coming to the service rather than just their own denominational one. Eventually, a retired Methodist minister was given the pastoral oversight of the area in 1977. A church committee was set up with representatives from 3 parent churches. 4 pieces of furniture made by a retired Omokoroa builder, Mr. Bill Brown, were presented to the Omokoroa Church in December 1980. A lectern, communion table, kneeling stool and a cross took Mr. Brown about 2 months to complete by hand. The wood used in the furniture was an interesting historical significance. When the Kari barn was dismantled, the Krapp family of Omokoroa gave the timber to Mr. Brown for the communion table. The wood for the lectern came from an ash tree planted on the estate, and the cross was made from Tasmanian blackwood. Reverend Gellibrand, the original settler, bought seedlings of these trees with him from Tasmania. The communion table, which is made from the Kari barn, the timber from the Kari barn on Gerald Krapp estate, and was donated and made by Bill Brown. The lectern was made from an ash tree that was grown in the Gerald Krapp Reserve, and these trees were planted like 140 years ago. The lectern is now in the museum, in the storage museum, waiting for a museum to be built, but it's in safe hands. The prayer kneeling stool, we don't know where it is, and the cross is missing as well. There's a photo there of Mackolds, who was the first minister, and the first full-time minister, and Mr. Bill Brown, who was the maker of this beautiful pieces of furniture. The church faced the problem of storing the furniture, as it was proposed to the Settlers Hall Committee that the hall be extended to include a worship centre, with the church contributing $2,200 and providing a team of builders and other helpers. This was agreed to by the Hall Committee. The addition doubled the size of the hall and gave the church a lock-up area as a worship centre and storage for the equipment. The church in Omokoroa had grown so much that in 1984, a Methodist minister, Reverend Mackolds, was employed part-time to conduct the services of worship and care for the people. A covenant agreement for the development of a cooperating parish in Omokoroa was signed on the 19th of February 1984. This was adjusted on the 6th of July 1986, when it was decided to appoint a full-time minister. The first full-time minister, the Reverend Mackolds, was inducted on Friday the 26th of September 1986. A clergy house was purchased and a study was added in January 1987. All this grew out of a need for gathering together of Christians in the area. They were willing to share denominational diversity and provide a united witness. The church had two ministers, Methodist Reverend Wes Chambers and Anglican minister Reverend David Hall, before Presbyterian minister the Reverend Tony Hepburn took up the role in 1994. 1999 saw the formation of the Omokoroa Community Church Incorporated. After years of planning and tireless efforts of the fundraising committee, the dream of a new Omokoroa Community Church in Hamarana Road became a reality. Martin Knudsen, a parishioner of the church, was the builder and Barry Mead was the planner. The church was dedicated on the 27th of July 2002. The complex, which is available for community use, includes a hall, offices and a 250-seat auditorium. Mr. Cooney, the owner of the land, wanted to give the land to the church initially, but the land was settled in a trust and the newly formed Omokoroa Community Church Incorporated holds a 99-year lease on it. The manse at 5 Ruamoana Place, Omokoroa, was sold, and in 2008 a new 4-bedroom manse was built by Martin Knudsen at 3 Holyoke Terrace, Linley Park, Omokoroa.